he will be one of you. He is a blue-collar guy. He wants to win. He will do everything he can to try to turn that franchise around.
Great pass catcher, basketball background, athletic. He's got great length, tremendous catch radius. He will be a real factor.
6'4", 270. He sets a physical edge in the run game. Violent hands. Impacts the quarterback in the pass game.
With the first pick in the DML draft, the Houston Texans select
Yo, what's going on, fellas? This your boy The Bus, and we back with another mock draft for this up-and-coming draft that's going to be this Friday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern. I know you guys are anxious to hear about these new rookies that's possibly coming in, see who gets drafted, see who stays in the green room for numerous days. But before we get started, I got to introduce my counterpart, man. That's Ray McShay. What's going on?
What's going on, Buzz?
Not much, man. Just chilling. So, before we get started, we want to congratulate Embro and those Packers for winning the Super Bowl. And man, let's dive right on into it, man. Let's not even waste no time. So
let's get it.
First up, man, with the first overall pick as of right now, we got the Buffalo Bills.
Shocking.
Yeah. I mean, we all know the Bills are normally in the top 5, but this year, hold up. Nah. Last year they had the number 1 overall pick. Am I correct?
Yeah, he took the D end.
Yeah, he picked Moody.
I think him and Flair have alternated first overall picks the first few seasons, man. So it's not a shocker that he's still picking one again.
Right. So let's dive into why we think, this team is going to pick these particular players. And as you see, me and you both agree with Bo Hamilton coming out of Vanderbilt. And looking at the Bills roster, he doesn't have a quarterback on the roster. I've heard some rumors about, the Bills possibly going after Aaron Rodgers. But still, you bring in Aaron Rodgers, a veteran, you want to bring in that rookie, such as Bo Hamilton. So Bo can either learn from him or, you just throw Bo out there and let Aaron Rodgers be the backup. I don't know how the Buffalo Bills are going to orchestrate that. But Bo Hamilton, man, he's from the SEC. The last quarterback that I remember out of Vanderbilt with a big arm was Jay Cutler. So you've seen him play in some of these the East and West bowl games. How did he perform facing some of the talent over the states?
Man, he's a number 1 rated quarterback for a reason. I'm not a big fan of the quarterback class this season, right. But out of all the quarterbacks, I think he's the clear-cut runner for being the top 1. I mean, he's a big kid, man. 6'3", 230. I mean, He's got a big arm. I think he performed well. I think he had a okay career at Vandy. I mean, you don't see too many quarterbacks coming out the SEC that are legitimate quarterbacks. They all got big arms. So it's always a big concern. I mean, you look at guys like Jamarcus Russell and Jay Cutler and those kind of guys that come out of that conference. You don't see too many, big-time quarterbacks, but they all got cannons. So I think it's a no-brainer for him to take Bo at this pick. I think he stacked up the defense. I think he stacked up the O-line. I mean, he drafted every position outside of quarterback. So I think for where he's picking and what he's needing, I think it's a no-brainer for him to go with Bo.
Yeah, I think Bo will step in and compete. It just depends on if the Buffalo Bills want to just throw him out there to the Wolves or let him sit a few weeks and let him learn from Aaron Rodgers, because he's a veteran. He knows how the NFL goes. He knows the game. So I think it's just going to depend on the coaching staff of the Buffalo Bills. But we both feel like the Bills will draft Bo Hamilton out of Vanderbilt. Now, next up, we have the Panthers coming in at number 2.
Oh, Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton won 1 or 2 games this season, and he really struggled. After Cam left, I don't think the Panthers knew what direction they were going to go in. So I think he started Will Grier for the season. I mean, Will Grier is not bad, but I don't think he's that guy that you should have as your franchise quarterback. Now, I'm gonna let you go first. You got the Panthers selecting Jordan Cohan out of the U. Now, if you look at the last name Cohan, I want to say he's a family member of Tariq Cohan from the Bears, so he's probably fast and very shifty. What did you like about Jordan Cohan?
He played at Miami, and everyone that comes out of Miami that plays DB typically can ball out in the NFL. And the Panthers stay looking for a corner. I think he's asked about cornerbacks every season to tons of different users in the DML. And I don't think Hamilton is picking high enough to take the number one quarterback in the class. And I don't think he would take the next rated quarterback that high at number 2.
Right.
I think his next biggest need would be corner. And I believe that Jordan Cohen is the number one quarterback coming out of the group. He's only 5'10", but I think he's going to have a good mix of zone and man coverage abilities. He has good play recognition. I think he's going to be the number one ready-made corner coming out the draft. And when you got the Falcons, some of them teams in the NFC, especially the ones in his divisions that are chunking the rock around a lot, right, you got to have corners. And Dante Jackson's starting to get up a little in age, and he don't have nothing behind him. So I think it's a no-brainer for him to go corner, and I believe that Cohen's the number one corner coming out the draft.
Gotcha. So you had him taking the cornerback out of the U, and I understand that you're saying that because the Panthers don't have that number one pick, they may not go quarterback. But for some reason, I just don't see them going with Will Grier after they struggled last year. Now, I don't know what they're going to do in free agency. They may think about bringing Cam back, or, I think Josh Allen has also been rumored and having some ties to the Panthers. But I feel like you got to get your a franchise quarterback in there, even if he's not the one that you may not typically want. You got to find somebody to build on. And I'm going to go with Dave Jackson out of UConn. Now, we don't normally hear about players coming out of UConn. I think the last time we heard something about UConn, if you guys looked at the Aaron Hernandez movie, Aaron Hernandez was supposed to go to the UConn, but he didn't. So they have a little bit of talent there, man. And I've seen Dave Jackson also in these East and West games, and with talent at the wide receiver spot, he showed a lot of promise. He didn't have the talent at UConn to really show his skills. So I think if he can get on a team that has some good pieces around him, Dave Jackson could possibly be the guy that the Panthers select with the number 2 overall pick. So, like I said, it's going to decide on what position they think is more important. Find them a quarterback now, or they can wait and then they can take Jordan Cohan if they feel like they need to address the cornerback spot. So,
it don't matter who the Panthers take, they're probably going to be picking top 5 again next year.
Right.
So that's why I have an idea that he probably won't go quarterback, just because his roster's not that good. He's ever since season 1, he's gone downhill, and there's a lot of veterans in free agency, like he said, and I think he can go after them guys and try to get the bridge the gap. But I think he believes and knows himself that he'll probably be back in the top 5 next year. Right. Maybe hoping that next year he'll get a top 5 pick to land at quarterback next year. But, Hamilton knows what he's doing. This year wasn't the best year for him, but it's been rumored that he's known for not being very good after the stock rosters come out. So,
Gotcha.
We'll see how it turns out. But the last quarterback to come out of UConn was Dan Orlovsky. And I think he works for ESPN now, so he didn't last very long in the NFL, man. So
right. All right, so he might not want to go with Dave Jackson, man. So let's move on to the 3rd overall pick, and that's the Tennessee Titans, man, coming in. Now, the Titans is a team that's normally in the top 5 as well. So we're hoping with these players that they're getting is going to help them build a solid foundation down there in the Titans organization. Now, when I looked at his roster, I felt like he was very slim at the running back spot. Derrick Henry is no longer there. So I think you need this guy, Tyrone Sharpton from North Dakota State, that's home of Carson Wentz, to come in and just own this position. You know what I'm saying? He's a little shifty guy, man. I went to a couple games down there. Matter of fact, they was in the championship game for their division. And this guy can move. He can catch out of the backfield. He can pick up those blitzes. So this guy could come into Tennessee and really help the Titans move forward, at least to gain a few more wins. Now, I see you got him taking Adric Hilton, center from the Georgia. Is this a position that he needs to address with the O-line, or what do you think, Ray?
Man, his O-line is horrible. I mean, it don't matter what running back you put back there, they can't block. And he has a solid young running back on his roster. I don't understand why the Titans don't play him, but he keeps playing these veteran guys and don't build the guy that has the most promise. So I know he picked up David Johnson last year in free agency. I think going Sharpton would be a good pick for him. Yeah. I think everyone has seen the last couple of seasons, those type of fast receiving backs like Highsmith and Sidney. Those guys are nasty. They're game changers. But if you can't block, it don't matter. And Hilton is the #1 rated player in the draft. He's not the biggest guy, but that boy can block. I mean, his impact block is nasty. His run block is nasty. I mean, you put him at center, you put him at guard, he's going to make holes. And to me, he kind of has that Larry Allen feel to him. When you line up across him, you know it's going to be a long day. And if the Titans are smart and want to build from the ground up, I think you got to go O-line to pick up the guys you got in place.
Gotcha. I mean, and, you know, Hilton comes from the SEC, man, and they're always known to have those big, strong players that face tough and stiff competition weekly. So I could see him going there. And I mean, Tyrone Sharpton coming from a smaller school is like North Dakota State. He may have to prove himself, but I think he's the guy that could possibly fit with the Tennessee Titans. Next up, man, we're going to go to the NFC, and we got the New York Giants coming in at pick number 4. Now, you had Hilton going to the Titans. I got Hilton going to the Giants, and I think he doubles down this year and goes with another lineman. Last year, he picked left tackle Kent Smith to address the O-line as well. And the reason I feel like he's going to go O-line again is because he has Barkley back there. And as you mentioned previously, Ray, you got to have O-line to block for the running backs. I don't care who you have back there. So when you start from the trenches and build out, I think you have a good nucleus of having a great team. So Adric Hilton coming in from Georgia and teaming up with his pick last year, Kent Smith, he'll solidify that offensive line and allow Barkley to maneuver and be that impact player that he can. Now, you got him going O-line too, just in the ACC with Eduardo Cardona, the left tackle out of the U.
Man, he's crazy enough. You got Hilton, the #1 rated overall player in the draft, and you got Cardona, who's #2 rated. And he's a tackle. He's going to stay at tackle. He drafted the left tackle last year, like he said. His right tackle, horrible. I mean, when you got defenses in the NFC East, like the Redskins, who them boys hit for fun, you got the Cowboys, nasty top 3 defense every season, and you got the Eagles, who still have a solid defense every single year. You got to be able to block them guys, man. And the Giants continue to finish at the bottom of their division, and they have studs everywhere. When you got the receivers, the quarterback, 2 running backs, and you can't block for them, that's a problem. So I think you pair Cardona with the left tackle Kent Smith they drafted last year. You got your bookend tackles for the rest of the cycle, and then hopefully maybe he can plug some guys in the interior line. It's hard to find tackles, man, and if you can land 2 in back-to-back years, you know, I mean, it'd be a dream come true for a team that has a lot of great pieces already. And Cardona, I mean, he's off the chart. I mean, he's 6'6", 318. I mean, Miami had a great season. You see a lot of top-rated players in this draft coming from the U, so that speaks volume to the kind of talent they had over this last season.
Right. I like Eduardo Cardona, man. I think he'll be a great fit. And, I mean, like I said, he drafted Kent Smith last year, but I think Kent Smith is very interchangeable, man. He may move in to the inside and play like a guard. Because when I'm looking at him at some of the tape and I'm looking at his attributes, Ken Smith has 76 speed. So he can play guard and pull around for Barkley or whoever's going to be in the backfield. And then you put a stud like Eduardo Cardano at the left tackle to block for Sean Williams. That'll be a great combination for the Giants. So I think that's a win-win situation, whether they go Hilton or they go Cardano. But if Cardano is on the board, I don't think you pass him up. So let's keep it moving.
It is the Giants. So I mean, he took the quarterback year one when he had a quarterback. So you never know, man. But I think either way, it's a slam dunk pick if he goes either offensive lineman.
Gotcha. Let's keep it moving, man. We're gonna move on to the Denver Broncos. And last year, I think the Broncos had the number 2 pick.
Yeah, he took the quarterback.
Quarterback, and so he took the quarterback out of Texas A&M.
Charlie Olsen.
Charlie Olsen. Now, he has a few holes on his team. However, I feel like if you bring in a quarterback like Charlie Olsen, you got to get him some help, but you also got to play some defense. Now, when I say get him some help, you went that route and you said they should be taking Trayvon Riddick from LSU. What do you like about Trayvon Riddick from LSU?
He got everything you want in a receiver. 6'3", 225, high spectacular catch, high release, high catch in traffic. Everyone has seen the last few seasons these big receivers that have great catching and actually can move. I anticipate his speed kind of being 88, 89, and for a guy that runs who's 6'3" and that big, that's phenomenal. When you look at guys like the Dolphins last year took Will Rice, and you look at the year before Kirkland Campbell, I mean, those guys are big-time stars in the DML, and they're still in their first and second years. So when you got a quarterback like who struggled last year because he had nothing to throw to, it's a no-brainer. Go get you a weapon. You got a solid, team around that. You got Noah Fant, but you don't got anything else. And he went paid for some of these guys that are old, and he has nothing to bring up. He's a top-rated receiver in the draft. He played in the SEC, played against some of the top dogs at DB. And for me, get your boys some weapons. Olsen already kind of felt the heat year one in Denver. I mean, they're picking number 2 for a reason. So, I mean, get your boys some help, man.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty good pick for the Broncos, man, to bring in some help for old Charlie Olsen, man, and give him some key players to throw to. I mean, this year, if you look at him, Olsen had 21 touchdowns and 37 interceptions. I don't know if it was because he was forcing it or he just didn't have the guys to get the ball to. So Riddick would definitely come in and start right away. Now, I like that pick, but I also felt like the Broncos needed to address defensive side of the ball. Last year, another pick that they took was Woody at the left outside linebacker. Well, I'm thinking he needs to go DN because I'm looking at his DN. They're young, but they all look like role players, man. So I like Amari Corbett out of Georgia. I think he's the number 1 DN in this class. You know what I'm saying? He's fast. He's powerful. He has all the moves: swim move, block, power move, bull rush. He has everything. He may need to work on his technique a little bit with his hands, but once he gets that down, and he's going to be in Denver learning from Von Miller. So I think this would be a great pick for the Broncos to go defense and solidify that defensive line, that defensive inside. You know what I'm saying? So you team Amari Corbett up with Woody, who he drafted last year, and then Miller's still there. He could be able to put some pressure on the quarterback and force the opposing team into some hurry up throws and some interceptions. So either way it goes, both of those picks will help the Broncos. So let's move on to pick 6, and that's the New England Patriots. So the Patriots last year went defense, and they took Justin Beckman, the outside linebacker. Now we swapped here. We pretty much swapping with these picks. I have him taking Trayvon Riddick, and it's basically because of everything that you said. This guy's big, he's fast, he catches the ball at the highest point You know what I'm saying? So he drafted a quarterback a few seasons ago. So I think this is another situation where he has to get his quarterback some weapons so that he can be successful down there in New England. You know, they lost Brady, so they're looking for that replacement. But if you don't have those key weapons, I don't care who you got back there, Brady, Joe Montana, man, it won't even matter. Get some weapons for these quarterbacks and allow them to be successful. Now, I had him taking Trevon Riddick. You going to the defensive side of the ball with Amiri Corbett. What did you like about Corbett coming out of Georgia?
Man, just like you said, he's number one defensive end coming out. And I think everyone on the Patriots defense is like 50 years old and nobody knows who plays on that defense anymore. And when you play in the AFC East, when you got teams like the Jets, who ranked number 2 or number 3 in rushing this year, the Dolphins, who have ran that division since after season 1, you got to play some defense. And last year, the Falcons took Roten in the top 10, superstar DN, had a great rookie season. The Packers took Jeremiah Bingham in the middle of the first round, superstar DN. He was a Super Bowl MVP. Mm-hmm. Pass rusher. You see all these teams thirsting, trying to find that next great pass rusher. If you're the Patriots and you need defense, you gotta go defense. And with him being on the board, I think it's a no-brainer. Like you said, he played at SEC. I mean, everything he does is off the chart. And I think he's going to be a dominant speed rusher coming out the gates. I think he'll have a high dev, and I think it would be a phenomenal pick for them to land them at pick 6.
Yeah, I've always been a team favorite of building from the inside out. I always felt like it starts in the trenches, man. If you can get pressure on the quarterback, you can make something happen on defense. So you tag Team Corbett with what's the guy from Chase Winovich. I think you got a pretty solid DN combination right there, man, who can bring pressure from either side of the ball. So I think that'll be a good pick for the Patriots going with Corbett. But if you want to bring a wide receiver in and give your quarterback some help, Riddick is that guy as well. Now let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders down there in the black hole. This is a surprise team that's being in the top 10 right now, but he has a lot of picks and he has some holes that he might need to fill. So I'm going with the O-line, man. Eduardo Cardano. This is the number 1 left tackle in this draft class. And as we mentioned before, I think he will be a guy who can solidify the O-line for the Raiders. And if you notice, he has Sam Darnold there, and Sam Darnold had a great season last season, but I think he just needs some help. He needs that blindside guy that can come in where he doesn't have to worry about. And Eduardo Cardano is that guy who can prevent Sam Darnold from even worrying about his backside. So that's my pick. You got him going cornerback, Cortez Falk from Mississippi State.
I mean, the Raiders are picking here via trade last year. In the offseason, he moved Maurice Hurst to the Rams.
That's right. That's right.
Obviously, the Rams had another horrible season, shocker, and the Raiders land a top 10 pick. So the Raiders had an average season. The roster wasn't as strong as it normally was. The offensive line is definitely weak. The first couple of seasons, he lost some guys due to money issues and age issues. So going Cardona, if he's there available, man, no brainer, take the guy. He's a beast. But for me, you need to go corner. When you play against KP and them Chiefs, and you got 99 speed, you got 97 speed, 97. You got all these dudes that got speed, type, whatever the case may be. You got to have some guys that play defense that can run with these guys. And I think Falk is the 1B to Cohan's 1A. And he played at Mississippi State. He's a man-to-man corner. He's 5'10", 208. I think he's got some swag to him. He kind of reminds me of the guy up in Lambeau, Jair Alexander. Same size, same swag, man-to-man kind of guy. And to be picking here this high, you got to get a home run pick. And I think he's going to have great man coverage. I think he's going to be able to press guys at the line of scrimmage. And overall, I think he's going to have, a good overall in Dev coming out. And he lost Oliver last year to free agency. His cornerback position is really weak. He has a lot of picks this year, first and second round. I think he could possibly get an offensive lineman at pick 17, his natural pick, and land a stud like Falk at number 7.
Right. So when you're looking at Cortez Falk and you're looking at Cohen, both of these guys could be the first cornerbacks taken off the board. I just think
most definitely.
I think it's going to depend on their pro day and their combine numbers. Now, Cohen said look for him to run like a 4.3. Falk said look for him to run like a 4.2. So I'm going to see who comes out with the sufficient time and who's the fastest. So whoever's the fastest, that's the first cornerback that's going to be taken off the board. So
you can't teach speed, man. You can't teach speed.
Right. So let's move on to pick 8, and that's those Minnesota Vikings, man. And looking at their team, I said that they needed to go wide receiver. And let me explain why. They're aging at the wide receiver spot, almost like dinosaurs. You got Stephon Diggs, he's 29. You got Adam Thielen, who's 33. Josh Doxson at 30. To me, wide receiver is a must, and I got him taking Jabari Waller out of Boston College. Now, Waller kind of stood behind some of the big ACC wide receivers that we mentioned. You guys also know T. Higgins. He's not coming out yet, but he's there in Clemson. There's some other receivers there, but Jabari Waller is that guy who I think can help the Vikings get to the next level. He may not come in and start right away because you have the veteran leadership with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, but by mid-season, I would expect him to at least be at the number 2. Definitely he'll be at the slot position starting off the season. You know what I'm saying? He's fast. He's a medium-sized guy. He can get up and catch the ball, and he's very crisp at running his routes. And the one thing that I really like about him is he can create separation, which could help Baker Mayfield reach his next level. So you got him going to the defensive side of the ball with cornerback out of Utah, Jamison Lindsey. Now, what's the difference between Lindsey and Cortez Falk and Cohen? Why does Lindsey stand out right here with the Minnesota Vikings?
I think the Vikings need another corner. He took D'Angelo Hendricks a couple of years ago out of Fresno State.
Great pick.
And he was a phenomenal pick for them. And he's been a stud corner ever since he took him. He needs that other guy to book in with him. And I think Lindsey is the third best corner. He's a little on the shorter side. He's only 5'9", 188. But he's one of them guys that plays nitty gritty. He's got that swag to him too, kind of like Falk. And he'll get in your face. He'll press you. He'll make you work for every catch. He might not come out with a high dev, or he may not come out with the best numbers, but the kid can ball. And with the Vikings making so many trades, moving older guys, trying to get younger, I think cornerback is the need here. Receiver is definitely a need as well. I mean, the Vikings have a lot of holes, so whether they went Waller or they went, Lindsey, either one's going to be a great pick because they need the talent at both those spots. But I think Lindsey's the third best corner, and I think it's a perfect fit for him to go to Minnesota.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like Lindsey out of Utah, but I like Jabari Waller coming in at that slot receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. Next up, we got the Colts coming up at pick number 9, and as you see here, you got Jordan Cohen. He called me right before this show and was like, "Hey man, if you got me going later, put wide receiver by my name," even though he's a cornerback. And the reason he said that, he says he feels like he can play both positions. He feels like he could be that first player in the DML that could play wide receiver on a few plays and cornerback. But that's going to be something he has to take up with his coach. I don't know if they're going to allow that. They're going to tell him to pick a position and then work on it. So we're gonna say he's a cornerback because that's what he's been playing at the U this whole time. So we all know about the Jordan Cohen, man, and we mentioned it earlier. I think he could possibly be a shutdown corner that goes to the Indianapolis Colts. He's fast. He's that man corner who can run with anybody. Even though he's short, he does have great leaping ability. And I saw Cohan in the Florida State game, and y'all know the emphasis of the U in the Florida State. I want to say Cohan may have won the turnover chain at least 6 times that game. So I think he had like 3 picks and maybe like 2 or 3 fumble recoveries. So this guy's always running the ball. He knows how to create turnovers. And having a guy like this on any team but the Colts would be a great addition to help the Colts getting to that winning mindset and allow them to make that next step to the next season and finally into the high stakes season, man. But watch Jordan Cohan with regards to what team he goes to, but I think he goes to the Colts. You got him picking center Lane Nixon out of Clemson.
Man, I think he is one of the top offensive linemen in the draft. You know, we all already established that, you know, Hilton was the number 1 guy in the draft, number 1 offensive lineman. But this guy right here is not that far off from him, man. I mean, 1, he plays for a big-time school, so it doesn't shock me on his measurables. I mean, those guys, you know, in those schools recruit them big boys. He's 6'5", 317, and he's a nasty run blocker. And the Colts just traded for Haskins. Gave him a franchise tag for $34 million. When you invest, and he don't have a first-round pick next year now. When you invest in the quarterback, you got to have them boys block for him. Every season he's gone lineman, he's got 2 great tackles. He has Quentin Nelson, who's still playing guard. Yeah. Another offensive lineman he brought up, you know, a couple years ago. The one spot he lacks is center. So you bring that center, you got your offensive line set for the rest of the cycle, and then that way he can focus on making trades or free agency acquisitions or the rest of his drafts. He can focus on other areas. But when you got a guy that can come up there and block, who can run block great, who can pass block great, who can impact block great. I mean, when you can do everything great on the O-line and you can control the line of scrimmage at center, you got to go there. And if he's there at number 9, I think it's a no-brainer. The Colts are going to go O-line. You know, I think he's done the last 2-3 seasons. He's gone offensive line, so I think he'll follow suit and he'll go O-line one more time, and that way he don't have to pick it the rest of the cycle.
Gotcha. I like Lane Nixon out of Clemson, man. But the only knock that I have about the O-linemen that come out of Clemson, it seems like they never really prosper once they get to the NFL. Now, Lane Nixon could be different, but I do like the pick, and I understand that if you have an investment like Haskins, you got to protect him. So going O-line could be a great selection for the Colts. Next up, man, we got the final and the last pick of the top 10, and that's the Green Bay Packers coming in at number 10. Now, one thing I know about the Packers is they have a solid O-line, but they're also aging. So just as we say, you got to protect your investment and you got to block. You got to have those O-linemen there to block for Pollard, Highsmith, and whoever else may be in the backfield. Now, I have the Packers selecting Chase Wilkerson. I think he's a step better than Lane Nixon. So this is why I have him going to the Packers versus Nixon going there, who's probably the second best center in the league. Chase Wilkerson is that guy who can move from center to guard, left or right guard. He's a big guy. He's very strong, so he can anchor that O-line. He understands blitzes. He can move. He can get to the next level. So with a guy like Pollard in the backfield, you want to have that O-lineman who can get in front of Pollard and make that block that he may need to spring him for a big, long touchdown. So I got Chase Wilkerson out of Oregon State going to the Packers, man. Now, you have the wide receiver that I like, Jabari Waller, out of Boston College. What do you like about Jabari?
Well, the quarterback that got drafted in the second round last year by the Packers, Martin Teague, was his quarterback for the last couple of seasons up in Boston College. Yeah. And all Martin Teague did was tell the coaching staff in the front office, go get my guy. You know, Nolan Arnaud's on the roster, baller receiver. But after that, there's a little bit of question marks. Those guys are getting up there in age. And when you got the potential to have your running backs for the cycle, your quarterback for the cycle, You already got one receiver for the cycle. If you can land that other big-time guy who already has that chemistry with your quarterback, man, go ahead and try to stop that offense potentially, because Teague and Waller, they balled out. I mean, Teague fell, down the draft boards last year because he didn't get the wins, but statistically, him and Waller, they were, unstoppable, in the games they played. So when you can get a guy at number 10 who's 6'4", and has all the catching attributes that you want in a receiver, like we said earlier, go get you guys some weapons. You can't crowd the box anymore trying to stop Pollard and Highsmith when you got two guys on the outside that can beat you. So I think it adds another element to the offense, and I think it'd be a great pick for the Packers to take him at number 10.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like Waller, man, and I see the connection there with Teague, both of them playing at Boston College. So, hey, man, that was a quick rundown of picks 1 through 10 for the up-and-coming draft. Remember, our draft is being held Friday at 10 p.m. So make sure you tune in. I hope these players are ready. They should be having their pro days and combine this week before the draft hits. So we'll be able to get a more efficient look and analyze these picks as their numbers come out. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. Thanks Ray Mache for providing his input. And until next time, we out.